just an FYI, I have a Twitter handle. If anybody has any questions and want to get an answer, you could reach out at this, or we could take your questions. And now coming back to IBM Big Insights, there's been a lot of noise around, how it's different from Cloudera, what is Big Insights, how it's different from Hortonworks, what is the value that Big Insights bring in when it comes to, talking about Hadoop space. So those are the things that we are going to cover in today's session and today's webinar. So coming to, the what Big Insights is. Its official product name is IBM Big Insights, and it's also on cloud. And it's packaged with the IBM Open Platform that's called IOP and Big Insights. And there are some value add-ons that Big Insights has. Those one of the famous one is Big SQL, along with Text Analytics and Big R and Big Sheets. And there is an on-prem version too. There's a cloud version too. And there are text analytics we could do using Big Insights value-added services, and we can use Big Sheets. Big Sheets is basically an interface which looks like, and it's very similar to view your text using Big Sheets, and it's bundled offering with with the Big Insights. So I think my screen hang. Oh. There is this. Yeah. So now we're going to talk about how we could compare Cloudera and Big Insights. So what is the key value that Cloudera that Big Insights bring over Cloudera? So let's go through the small video and let's figure it out.
Is there any way that you can turn up the volume?
Yeah, sure.
It's very hard to hear.
All right.
Oh, that's a little better.
Yeah.
It still takes an effort to hear it.
For a number of years, and yes, to some degree they are the incumbent because they were probably the first, other than perhaps Amazon, to come out with a commercial Hadoop distribution. But times have changed. The Hadoop time frame, marketplace moves quickly. So IBM Big Insights is actually, as you know, I think we've been in the market since mid-2011, so that's already 2.5 years. So they haven't been around significantly longer than we have. But like what Cloudera has done, I think, is somehow garner a little bit more market attention than we have, and that's what we need to change, Dirk, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah. They seem to have hired a lot of these Hadoop luminaries and rock stars like Doug Cutting and Jeff Hammerbacher and so on.
Yeah.
So how does Big Insights compare with CDH or Cloudera distributed?
Yeah. So Cloudera, we both have similar Hadoop components. I'm not going to say my Hadoop's better than your Hadoop. Hadoop is Hadoop, right? We both have the basic, Apache components. We both take those open source components and package them up and ship them out and support them. Where IBM differs, I think, is that we go a little bit beyond that, like we talked before, but particularly in the area of analytics. So Cloudera, and they're starting to change, but traditionally their focus has been on, getting you up and running, getting your Hadoop cluster infrastructure, and we're helping get value out of the data. So we're adding all those analytical capabilities that Cloudera does not have.
Right. So value on top and being able to, so where Cloudera's business model seems to predominantly been around services, we enable you to be independent of those services by having easy interfaces.
And tools like Big Sheets that we spoke about, and text analytics and machine and accelerators and so on. That's where I think the difference is.
Yeah. So with Cloudera's distribution for Hadoop, is this free?
Well, free is not exactly. So let me take that this way. there seems to be this perception out there that Cloudera is free, and how do you compete with free, right? So first of all, Cloudera does have a free capability or free download of their distribution, and that's CDH. Their version 4 is the current release. But if I want to actually get technical support to put that into production for real purposes, then that's where you pay. So their business model is one where I don't get everything, by the way, for download free. There's some things that I can only get through the CDH Enterprise is what it's called.
Okay.
So with Enterprise, I'm paying on an annual node, per node rather, on an annual subscription basis to get the technical support. So it's not free. In fact, you're paying year after year after year.
Okay, yeah.
And you don't really own anything. There's no license in that context.
And how does that differ from what we offer with Biginsights?
Well, it's IBM Biginsights also has a free quick start edition, but we also offer the ability to acquire a license, a persistent license of the offering up front, and then still only pay a nominal annual subscription to a regular basis. But I think more importantly is what's happening with Cloudera is they're changing their model. So whereas once they would include everything, they're now starting to add additional components for extra charges. So I think at the moment they have 5 extra charge subscription options that they have. One for real-time RTD, real-time data query, RTQ rather, RTD, there's the search, there's business disaster recovery, a navigator, and so that they're really starting now to change in that regard.
There was a really interesting blog post that their former CEO Mike Olson made a few weeks ago about the changing business model.
Right. So where Cloudera initially came to market, as a pure open source, and they're sometimes perceived now as, we're pure open source. Don't be fooled. Yeah. He basically stated that business model of pure open source is not going to cut it, and they are moving towards a pragmatic blend of open source and closed IP intellectual property for differentiation, which, by the way, is similar to the business that we have. Yes.
Yeah. So what are some of their more notable value adds?
Well, value add is an opinion. Extra cost options might be the way I define it, but I think the most prominent one right now is Impala. Yeah. Impala being their version or their entry into the SQL on Hadoop marketplace. The fundamental thing about Impala is that they call it open source, but really they develop them themselves and put it out in the open source community. In my view, they're effectively building kind of like an MPP database from scratch. So they're subject still to some of the constraints of where their development effort is at. But I think the significant difference right now between BigSQL and Cloudera's Impala is in the SQL interface. So the SQL interface that they have is still based on HQL, Hive query language, which means that BigSQL provides much richer SQL support out of the box and better their support for those end user tools up front.
Now, one of the controversial things that you see in the Hadoop space, at least I find, is that many people kind of latch on to this open source kind of moniker. And for me, at least, one of the values of open source is that it's out there and that the community is using it, much like Hive, Pig, and Core MapReduce. Is anyone outside of Cloudera using Impala?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So it's really
at least no one else contributing to the development of it, for example, which would be how we might consider a true open source community.
So open source and name only.
Yes.
With the price tag. Yeah. One of the things that struck me as well about some of at least the things that I've been reading on the surface about Cloudera is they've been talking about this enterprise hub and about their place in kind of the relational world.
Right. So there's some mixed messages there, but during the Strata conference there, not that long ago, they announced the enterprise data hub to much hoopla. And then they're basically stating that this is a new architecture where Cloudera would be the center of the data universe, depending upon the interpretation. My interpretation of it is that Cloudera is kind of taking a page from our book in a sense, where IBM has this new big data reference architecture, where Hadoop fits as kind of like the landing zone, we call it, where all types of data can land and do analytics on them, and then move to other appropriate subsystems as necessary, like a warehouse or an analytical appliance and so But we have all the components of that whole architecture. Cloudera has just one component, Hadoop, and so when their definition of an enterprise data hub is that Cloudera itself would be that Hadoop component in that overall architecture. So they're really oversimplifying it. They're suggesting that they can be everything with just Cloudera, but they're really missing the other components that we have: the real-time analytics, the warehouse capabilities, the analytical appliances, in-memory options, and so on. So it's in my view, it's trying to compete with the bigger picture, and yet they don't have the complete picture.
Now, would they argue at the same time that Hadoop is the complete picture? So, I mean, you mentioned Strata. So, one of their luminaries, Doug Cutting, made what I thought was a controversial statement that Hadoop would be used for transactional workloads eventually.
So that's an interesting point. I think that they're trying basically to evolve, like the other thing we said, that adding additional value components are beyond open source. So they've added search, they've added, and so perhaps to some extent, yes, I think their vision would be that Hadoop can do it all. And in the meantime, they're riding kind of a fine line between Hadoop doing it all and partnering with other vendors to provide the integration that's necessary to the enterprise.
Who's one of their big partners?
Informatica.
I think they're partnered with Oracle to some degree as well, right?
Yes, that's right. So Oracle does package Cloudera up in the Oracle Big Data Appliance. Now that's an interesting
sidebar.
Relationship there. Not to get too much into it at this point, but Oracle doesn't position Hadoop for analytics, so it's completely unlike the IBM position in terms of how Cloudera might be used.
So it's an awkward marriage, to say the least. So as far as Cloudera is concerned, then, so in summary, we have they have been around for a long time.
Yep.
However, the industry, I mean, Hadoop skill is no longer unique to them, obviously. It's fair to say.
Yeah, so I'd summarize it as saying that, they've been around for a long time, but guess what? The competition is caught up. Yeah. It's fierce out there. They're trying to, address that by changing their business model and adding some more, proprietary components, and they're trying to emulate the bigger picture of, for example, IBM's, data architecture, and they want to provide their own interface to Hadoop with SQL, which has some limitations. But all things considered, they still don't have the analytical capabilities that IBM has, nor the complete portfolio that IBM has in that space. I'll give you one more example before we go.
Sure.
Search. So they've recently introduced Cloudera Search, right? So what is it good for? Well, it searches and indexes data stored in Cloudera. That's pretty centric. I compare that with Data Explorer, Biginsights, and guess what? Yeah, we can search and index in Data Explorer, but there's a whole lot of, or data in Hadoop, there's a whole lot of other data outside the enterprise that we want to search and index and correlate with the data in Hadoop. They can't do that.
Yeah. And their answer might be, all right, dump everything in Hadoop, but not everybody wants to replicate everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Glenn.
All right, Dirk, thanks.
So listening to this, we see that Cloudera has a lot of features, and Biginsights, recently adding to a lot of value-added services. When it comes to Data Explorer, as mentioned in the video, that is now called Watson Explorer, WEX, and it supports federation search capabilities. So it's basically what happens is there is a product from Apache. It's called Solar. So what Solar does is it indexes all your content, and then provides a tool called Banana, and using that tool, it's a visualization tool. You can basically look up to all the files and basically explore something you could do using Google search. So like there are options to that, autofill options and things like that. So that is one capability that Watson Explorer provides a company. And then there are things that there's this open source Apache Hadoop on which every company is packaging their own version of Hadoop and saying, let's say Cloudera is saying we are going to provide a technical support on Hadoop, and Horton Works is saying that we are providing a architecture, like our own package on of Hadoop, and MapR is saying we are providing our own. So these are like different companies. But then when it comes to Big Insights, it does not only provides you the package version. It is also, we are also contributing into open source space, and we are also we have a lot of committers, around the maximum committers onto Spark. We also provide like all the value-added services, the big SQL components proven to be one of the widely accepted, and it supports the ANSI compliant SQL for 2011 that I previously spoke about in the webinar. And then there are features that Hortonworks is differentiated from Big Insights. So our main component when we talk about Big Insights is analytics. So when it comes to Watson Explorer or Watson Data Platform or Big Sheets or text analytics or sentiment analysis or machine learning capabilities, that's where IBM Big Insights stands out, and it's basically it is built for analytics. So a lot of E&U customers, a lot of media entertainment, a lot of like these product specific clients, they're very much interested in Big Insights, and as they grow more into the learning side of Big Insights, and they see the type of investment, the type of results they could carry out from Big Insights, it's bringing a very positive impact. So over here we also try to talk about the things that Big Insights is differentiated from Hortonworks. So
Hello, I'm Director Roos, and I'm here with Glenn Sheffield, our resident expert on competitive technologies in both the data warehousing and the Hadoop space. And today, we're going to be talking about Hortonworks. So Glenn, tell me about Hortonworks in general, and at least at a high level, how does that contrast with what we have to offer with Big Insights?
Okay, so Hortonworks is relatively new entry to the Hadoop marketplace. When I say relatively, they came out in June of 2012, so a year and a half compared with what we talked about. Cloudera was out there before, and IBM Big Insights was out there before that. But they've garnered a lot of attention. There's sometimes there's a term called media darling.
Yeah.
They seem to be the new media darling. In a nutshell, they're differentiating themselves, or trying to, by suggesting that they are the purists,
the true Hadoop,
the experts and the developers, and there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, I give it credibility and credit to them, rather, to contributing to Hadoop development and so on. Given that their business model and what they're offering is 100% open source Apache Hadoop, great. In that sense, so does Big Insights. We offer 100% open source Apache Hadoop. Where we differ is that we add stuff on top of that, as we talked about before. You can say what those are, because you know. Right?
Yeah.
The text analytics and the big sheets and so on that we've talked before about. So that's probably the bigger difference, is that, again, they're more focused on Hadoop up and running and making Hadoop consumable, and great. We also are focused on that, but also adding value and insight to Hadoop.
Yeah, right. Surround Hadoop with enterprise capability.
Yeah, and getting analytics and value out of it. Right. I think there's one other thing too, which people perceive that because they're open source Hadoop, that there must be some advantage to that. Well, I said that I give them credit, and because thank you very much, because guess what? The work that goes in open source is open source, meaning it's available to the community, which means it's available to IBM to include in Big Insights. So let's not forget that anything that goes into open source or Hortonworks also finds its way into Big Insights. There's not a heck of a lot of difference there. As we say, Hadoop is Hadoop is Hadoop.
If you're on Hadoop 2 and we're on Hadoop 2, we're using the same foundation.
Yeah, right. So don't get fooled.
Now, in terms of, there's been a lot of noise about their Stinger initiative.
Yes.
Where they're trying to add some real meat and more capability and robustness to their Hive offering.
Right. So Stinger, I think, was started in February of this year, and it's not a product per se. It's more of an initiative, right? So the idea was, as we well know, that we want to add SQL capabilities, or more robust SQL capabilities, onto Hadoop. Because Hive and the HQL is not as capable in that regard. So Stinger does represent an open source initiative to improve Hive to the point where it'll help performance and make it more SQL compatible with industry tools and so on. So that's great. They're at Stinger Phase 2 now, which means that Hive is at, I think, .12.
Yeah, that's right.
And more improvements coming. So with that, let's not forget again that Hive is included in Biginsights. So those developments will get included in Biginsights.
A rising tide floats all boats.
Yes. But at the same time, we still think that our big SQL provides some capabilities over and above what are in Hive. Even today, Hive 12, it doesn't support, for example, SQL subqueries.
That's right. And what does this mean for Cloudera, though? Because that's I mean, wasn't that where the Stinger name came from?
Well, Cloudera and Hortonworks. So Cloudera, as we talked about, is kind of the incumbent, and Cloudera is very much threatened, I think, in terms of the marketplace. They're very competitive now with Hortonworks. So Cloudera has responded with Impala, which is their SQL offering, and although it's it is open source in some sense, it's really competitive to Stinger. It doesn't use we use HCatalog and the underlying. Well, in any case, I guess the point being that they're in kind of a fight now with Cloudera in that context. And Impala is alternative to Stinger.
Right. Now, in terms of one of the things that always struck me about Hortonworks is how they'll partner with almost anyone that moves or asks them, and so that they have that makes for strange bedfellows, I think, sometimes, especially with one of their major partners, which is Teradata.
Yeah, so they certainly have a large number of partnerships, and I think that all has part to do with their strategy to get Hadoop out in more more places and more customers consumable. But Teradata for sure. So Teradata has partnered with Hortonworks, and Teradata has made Hortonworks part of their unified data architecture, which positions Hadoop within Teradata's view as a place to fetch, define, and store data, unstructured data. Teradata, unlike IBM, does not embrace Hadoop for analytics. So Hortonworks, in that context, or that partnership, is really kind of like a big, an ETL or a place to store data before it then can be loaded into Teradata or Aster Data. Aster Data being the place for discovery analytics.
That's right.
So it's I don't know how you might describe that kind of partnership. It's certainly
awkward.
Well, it's maybe convenience but it's enabling Hortonworks within Teradata customers. But let's get the facts out on the table that a lot of the analytics that Teradata is talking about doing outside of Hadoop, you can do in Hadoop. So why not use Hadoop for that purpose, which is what Biginsights can do. Right. If Teradata customers are really keen on adding Hadoop to their infrastructure, there's an alternative to Hortonworks. Biginsights can also fit in that architecture and still give the advantage of doing analytics on Hadoop and not needing, for example, what they use Aster Data for. You got me off on a bit of a tangent there, but
well, you feel strongly
it's
about
important,
it. Now, finally, in terms of using Hortonworks, so Hortonworks has a free download and that sort of thing. Is it really free if you want to deploy it?
Well, much like Cloudera, no. The answer is yes and no. It is free to download and you can put it into production, but you won't get their technical support. And one of the major selling points and values, which I agree with from a Hortonworks perspective, is that they do have credible Hadoop experts. And so if you want those Hadoop experts to provide you with technical support during your Hadoop deployments, then you need to pay for it. And so they offer, again, a subscription, an annual subscription on a term basis for that technical support, and you get levels of it depending on whether you want 8x5 or 24x7 or support for different. Actually, they even now have some options now for Cumulo, for example, is a separately priced support option. So everybody, their business model is one where they're going to have to, get some revenue coming in, and that's the way that they're doing it.
Right. So in summary, we see Hortonworks then as their marketing is right. It's a pure open source Hadoop play. And their business model, as you just mentioned, is really focused on service and support, which raises questions about really long-term viability, because they seem to invest a tremendous amount of engineering in driving the Hadoop projects.
Yes.
But I think the biggest differentiator between IBM and Hortonworks, and we certainly respect what they're doing with the community because we use a lot of their engineering, and because we pull the same we're pulling the same concept from Apache, but the differentiator is, I mean, IBM's Big Insights, where we have that foundational kind of extensions to the to the file system and the processing, but also that analytics layer, even more significantly, I think, right, where we provide that business level capability.
Right. So we're Hortonworks plus plus.
Yes. All right, Glenn. Thank you very much for your thoughts.
All right. Bye.
So as we see here that Big Insights is also a platform which you can use it as a true Apache Hadoop platform, something like Hortonworks, and there are some capabilities that Big Insights offer. If we want to summarize all those, they're like Big Insights is 100% standard open source Hadoop, and it has lightning fast ANSI compliant native Hadoop formats. That's like big SQL, and then it has spreadsheet like data structure and data access for all the clients, that is big sheets. And then there are simplified text analytics and natural language processing techniques. Some of them they use pre-existing APIs like Alchemy, and it also gives us a opportunity to create our own API services or export some existing API services. So the platform is very flexible. And then on Big Insights platform, it's fully compatible. As we see that Impala only Cloudera users are using it, whereas Big SQL gives you a wide variety of vendors it supports. So you should not. So when you're using Big SQL, you are not restricted to use Big Insights as one product. You can use Big SQL independent of Big Insights onto AWS or on whichever platform we like. And then it could be, and there is a Big Insights offering that makes it stands out in the market. It's deploying the analytics onto data. So which covers mostly Watson Engagement Advisor. So Watson Engagement Advisor is, it helps understand different things in order to initiate first steps to get engaged in different processes, and it could be anything related to, let's say if you want to go for getting a mortgage from a bank, so the way to get it, what are the interest rates, things like that, something Watson can help you. And then Watson Engagement Advisor, and then we have Watson Virtual Agent. That's like a bot and an agent that could serve as a personnel from your company. So something you could relate it to as a call center from your company. And then we have WEX, abbreviated for Watson Explorer. It supports cognitive search platforms that returns the results in like real time, and it has very unique search and discovery systems. So it also supports federated search. That means that the search is more faster, and then you could search over complex structures. So given that we have, IBM Big Insight has a more capable enterprise file system, what does that mean is like we give our customers a choice where they can deploy it and how they can deploy it as a uh, you know in order to showcase that, we have the options of if we go to this particular URL, we see we can download our Hadoop trials. And let's say if we want to do it right now, we have like IBM Open Platform, IBM Big Insights Quick Start, IBM Big Insights on Cloud. Something you can select from here. There's a basic plan that you can try for free if you want to try it. There's a Docker image that you can download. There are system requirements. This is on cloud, so whenever you want to try the basic plan, you can just select the basic plan, and it will direct you to a screen like this where you can spin up your open cluster. This is Big Insights for Apache Hadoop on cloud, so as to give a demo. And the feature, they have a feature summary over here. It provides 100% open source Apache Hadoop that uses IBM Open Platform, and it gets updated regularly. And there are components that it has. You can scale it out using. So let's say your database is growing. You need more data nodes. You can scale it out, and there's a graphic user interface through which you could do it. So it's very easy. You can just you can just select the Create tab, and then you can create it. I think I have already created some data nodes. So this is a basic plan that I'm using, but we can always update it, and the pricing is given over here on the right hand side, and there's a cost calculator through which you can calculate the cost of putting your data onto there. And there are different this is something which is available for free or very minimal price. You can play with it and do like do set up your own analytics onto your data for discover having more discoveries. So this is one part of it, onto Bloomix platform, which is now called Watson Developer Cloud. And then we have an integration of deep R language with Hadoop, which is another benefit of using Hadoop Big Insights. And then coming back to Watson Explorer, it helps you search, explore, and visualize all your data. And then we have different accelerators, where what I mean by different accelerators is we have some written codes that support different use cases. So let's say there's an energy and utility company, and they want to find out power outages in a particular city. And let's say there are 10. There is a weather data that we have from last 20 years, and we are able to find out that lightning strike onto that particular region, like let's say 20 times in last 10 years, and it's a ratio of, let's say, 2 times a year. So we can probably find out that what are those 2 times that it might be happening again, and that's where we can plan our power outages. So very good use case, because we have a lot of data from weather companies, since IBM owns a weather company now. So these are some perks. And when it comes to technical support, IBM has a pre-sales team, a post-engagement lab services team. We have our own Silicon Valley set up for checking out use cases and improving on big insights. And we have our own Spark Center, so putting into heavy investment onto open source technology. And then IBM differentiates Big Insight with end-to-end advanced analytics. So that is the key point that we've been discussing, that it integrates a lot of data management components that brings up with that you get a lot of analytics assets, something like data science experience. So data science experience is a platform where you can build out using Spark notebooks, very unique kind of graphs and plots, scatter plots. So different kind of visualization techniques to dig deeper into your data. So something that is very meaningful. So in order to take a use case, when it comes to analytics, there is a use case like very widely accepted in the industry. So I've been working on that. So it's basically, we had a lot of Twitter data, and we were performing sentiments on it. And then there was a movie for which we were doing it, and the first part of the movie, we got all the hashtags associated with that particular movie. And once we started performing sentiment analysis on that set of data, since IBM has an integration with Twitter data, so we can access a whole lot of data, which is more than the usual which anybody could get. So leveraging that merger and that kind of agreement with Twitter, we are able to derive mostly all of the hashtags associated to that particular movie. And then we performed the sentiment analysis, and based on that sentiment analysis, we could predict that the movie part, that second movie part, which is going to be released, how much we could estimate in figures for, and what kind of mental setup that people have for that particular movie, how much successful it is going to be. Is it a positive sentiment for making that second part for the movie, or is it a negative sentiment? Those kind of things. And that positive sentiment and negative sentiment, it was not just like yes or no. So we could dig down deeper using Watson and Data Science Explorer, and I mean using Data Science Experience. That would tell us that in this particular city, these are the number of male audiences that like this particular instance from the movie, so that you are able to put more focus on those things. And then we are able to figure out what is the likelihood of a particular event using in the movies. Another thing we come across a lot of use cases where these analytics assets are very important. And then IBM's customers have a lot of value for the maturity and depth of Hadoop extensions. One of them, the biggest one, is Big SQL. Big SQL is something that is a proven technology on top of Big Insights, that we could derive a lot of meaningful inferences from data using just a SQL interface. And this SQL interface is widely supported, supports almost all the formats and syntaxes of SQL, and it also provides some new syntaxes that would enable a user to even search federated, using the technology of memory management to trigger onto databases, database or data that lies on Big Insights. So it's a SQL compliant, 2011 SQL compliant, and could be used on all Hadoop engines, not restricted to just Big Insights. And then on top of that, there are components like Big Quality, Big Integrate, and Big Match. That those bring in like a lot of rich set of tools that we could run onto Hadoop and can build out different use cases. So this is all that we were trying to discuss about Big Insights. And then there is this is there are a lot of components that we can discuss with that comes on to from the analytics side of Big Insights. So um, as we call it, Big Insights Analytics Well Done. So so let's consider it here. There are let's say there are people who are putting likes onto Facebook, so we can leverage that like feature, and we can give analysis on the sentiments on how people feel about it. There are 300,000 tweets that people tweet using Twitter every minute, and there are around 150 million emails that goes out or are used for marketing. So based on that information, and we could understand that there's an opportunity for organizations to dig deeper into insights, because business leaders can make better decisions using these insights. And they don't have right now, most of the time they don't have access to insights, and then one wrong decision could lead you to lose out something. And 83% of CIOs, they said that business intelligence and analytics is a very crucial part, and this is something they envision in future. And then 60% of CEOs said that they need something more robust in order to capture the understanding of information and to make good decisions when it comes to job capturing. That's just one use case we describe here. What we mean to say by these slides is that there is a need for all the business users and even the leaders and executives and almost all the level of employees working in a company. There is a need for uh, having insights onto data, because data is an asset of a company, and if that asset could only be utilized if you are putting analytics onto it, and you are leveraging the knowledge from those analytics in order to make decisions, to make better decisions and for growing your company, or for contributing to the growth of your company. So big data has, as we've been all hearing about, different variety, velocity, volume of data. That what does that mean is basically we can think of big data as a place where you can put almost all of your structured, unstructured data. That gives us the opportunity to look into all kind of data present in the world, basically. So given that fact, that we are able to do analytics onto all of data, so that we don't miss out any component, and that would ensure us that we are making a right decision. So this data is present in different forms: velocity, volume, variety, and then there are different V's that keeps adding to it. So what variety means is different type of data. Velocity means that the streaming of data is in large volumes. And then what volume is something that you could define by the storage or size. So, and then Then comes an approach where we merge the traditional and big data approaches. So a traditional approach was like business users would determine what kind of questions to ask, and IT would structure the get the data from the structure, get the answer from the structured data in order to figure out the answer for that question. Now the trend is being changing, because earlier it was more about monthly sales report, profitability analysis, like how much they would be making, but there is a need to know what people feel about that particular brand, what company could do in order to form a strategy around selling their products, and how can they can leverage the maximum utilization from the assets they have in order to improve the production, improve the sales cycle, and benefit the business. So this is like something uh, which is very common nowadays when the big data term is coined. So why do we invest in analytics? There is a need of investing in analytics because the payback is 13.1 for every dollar spent. So what that means is, let's say you are spending $1 onto analytics, and then the return that you are getting based on the decisions that you make for those analytics is around $13. So that is why it is important to invest in it, because you're actually making, first rule of business, always make your investment. So you're making your investment plus you're earning profit. So another thing is there is 69%, created 69% of the analytics created a significant positive impact on business. So it's a proven technology, and because 69% is a good number, and then 60% created significant positive impact on revenue. So there are certain other factors that govern it, but 60% contribution comes from the analytics. And then we have more than half of half percentage that goes towards having a competitive advantage of your products, as compared to other companies. So it's very helpful for you in order to differentiate what are the areas of improvement, what is the scope of your product, and to create a good strategy where you can envision the growth of your company. So coming back to big data scenarios, there have been a lot of those we've been discussing about. There are a lot of social media from where we could get data. There's a lot of data present in form of weather acquisition that IBM did with the weather data company, and then there's a lot of medical data present. There's a lot of government data that we can leverage. There have been recently announcement that this data could be leveraged by IT companies in order to figure out what are the best approaches in order to stop crimes. And there have been times when all the healthcare companies wants good use cases, and that's one of the key reasons that Watson is so big into health industry, and we've been doing a great work when it comes to uh, using analytics onto health data, and then obviously predicting weather patterns for a lot of airline customers are using big insight approach. Almost we're telling them what is the best time, what is the estimated time of flight, and uh, what are the weather conditions we can expect at that particular time, based on the historical knowledge of the data, based on the processing that is done onto data. So it's very useful, and these are different scenarios where big data analytics could make a significant impact. Talking about all these, I think I covered most part of why analytics is important, how we can perform analytics, and what's an explorer, what's an engagement advisor. How we can do analytics on top of Hadoop, and how Biginsights is differentiated from Cloudera. What are the key values that it brings that Horton work does not support right now? Now coming to a point where what Big Insight contains, it contains a lot of services like Flume. It contains a lot of other services like Spark, and what are the features in architecture? It has distinct capabilities for discovering and analyzing business insights. That are there hidden into those large volume of data, and these technologies they help the organizations to grow and to basically manage the data from right from the point where it's entering their database. And then there are certain suggested layouts that IBM provides. That what does that mean is, when we provide technical support to our clients, there's a team that is dedicated for the progress of your company in order to figure out what are the services that needs improvement, how they could configure the nodes, how can they best leverage the cluster environment. And there are different scenarios that we discussed while working with big data, and how Biginsights fits into an enterprise data structure. Uh, now I think I would leave the room for some questions and answers here, Anna, if we have some.
We don't have any questions right now. Is there anyone with a question? I guess not. So thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Gautam, for your presentation.
Yeah.
And, we'll see you next time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody.